How do you letter on a window? And more importantly, how do you letter backwards on a window so that people outside can read it normally? Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and every single time I post a video of myself lettering like this, I get the exact same question. But how do you letter backwards like that? In this video, I'm going to show you why you even need to letter backwards on windows and exactly how to do it. I promise you, it's not some crazy skill that I have that you don't have. It's really actually not that complicated. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my tip, my secret tip that I've actually never even shared before, and show you exactly how to do it. Let's jump right in. Okay, first a quick bit about tools before we can get started, and then I promise I'm going to get to the secret hack. So first things first, obviously you need the paint or the pens that you're going to use on your window, and this is a really common question I get. So the first option is chalk markers. These are Bistro chalk markers. They come in lots of different sizes, and these are great if you want to be able to remove them really easily. They come off really easily just to the touch, so if you put them on the window and you just slide your finger over it, it'll come off. So if that's what your goal is, then that's great. The only thing to keep in mind is that when you're working with these, your hand might run over them and then smudge them, which makes it really kind of challenging to work with on windows. So that's chalk markers. The next option, and what I'm going to be using, are water-based Sharpie. And water-based Sharpie are my go-to for windows because they're durable enough that you can touch them as you're working and they dry quickly enough, but they're easy enough to remove with just Windex or even water. So that's what I'm going to be using today. The third option is Sharpie oil-based pens. These are really similar to the water-based, except they're a little more durable. So if you want it to stay on for a lot longer, you can use these ones. It's not going to damage your windows, but you have to remove it with alcohol or acetone, which can be a pain and kind of smell and all that good stuff. So these are in order of least durable to most durable, and you can take your pick. Now, one thing I will say as I'm walking you through all these tools is that obviously not everyone is going to have these pens lying around at their house. And so if you want to get into doing this without having to run to the store and buy new tools, you can do it with a paintbrush and paints. So like whatever paints you have lying around your house. I'm not going to get into how to DIY your own paint because we would be here all day, but just a little note that you are on YouTube right now. And so if you need to do that, you can definitely look up like a million other tutorials on how to make your own paint for this. So just a little side note. A couple other things you're going to need for this video. You're going to need paper. The bigger the better with the paper. This is 11 by 17 paper, but if you only have printer paper, like 8.5 by 11, that's fine. Or if you have a big roll of paper or tracing paper, that's great too. We're going to make it work for as big as you need, so we'll tape these together if we need it to be bigger. You'll also need a pencil. Any pencil is fine. You're going to need some tape. It doesn't have to be this fancy tape. This has a ruler built into it, which is awesome. I'll link to this down below, but we're not going to use it that way today. You just need any regular tape. You're going to need a piece of chalk, a ruler if you have one. This is a level, but I use it as a ruler. You don't need a ruler. You can freehand this if you want to, but if you want to be nice and neat and draw your letters really straight, use a ruler. You might need a sharpener, not completely necessary. And if you want to be able to take it off of your window, you're going to need Windex. All right, so now let's get into the actual step-by-step. So the first step you're going to do is you're going to make a piece of paper the size of your window, or at least the size of the lettering you want to do on your window. So I know that my window, the size that I want to do, is roughly going to be about 4 pieces of this 11 by 17 paper. So all I'm going to do is lay them out into the size that I want and tape them together. Okay, then once you've got your paper ready, I just flipped it over so that the tape is on the other side. Now is the fun part where you're actually just going to draw your design. For me, I'm going to write the words "we got this." At the time of this recording, we are all self-isolating for the coronavirus. So I'm writing little inspirational messages on my windows for my neighbors. So I'm going to write "we got this." And one good thing you can do is just write out, like do a couple little thumbnails of the shape you want to do before you jump into it. You can get as detailed with this as you want, but I'm going to keep it pretty simple. So I'm just drawing the letters out in an outline, and then I'm adding the thicknesses for where they're going to go, and that's going to become really important a little bit later in the tutorial. So if you've never done faux calligraphy, make sure you check out this tutorial that I'm linking to above and that you understand faux calligraphy first. I'm happy with my sketch. Now I'm just gonna take a black marker, any black marker, and I'm gonna go out over all the outlines that I'm gonna need because it's gonna be easier to trace it with a black marker than just with pencil. This is optional, you don't have to do this. Okay, my sketch is done. I'm happy with it. Now let's get to the good part. Okay, so first things first, a quick understanding of why you would even want to letter on the inside and not the outside, and why you would need to letter backwards. So you want to letter on the inside so that it doesn't get rained on or snowed on or just generally touched by people. And in order for people on the outside to be able to read what you wrote on the inside, it has to be backwards. So this is an example. I'm on the inside right now, and this is a piece that I did yesterday that I've written backwards so that from outside it looks like this. Okay, so I still have yesterday's design up, and I thought it would be a good time to also show you how to get this off the window afterwards. So Windex paper towel, and all you're gonna do is just spray it and wipe it off. It comes off really easily because I'm using water-based paint pens. Okay, so it's clean, and now I can put my new design on here. If you have a window and you're on a first floor where you can go outside to the other side of the window, it makes things really, really easy. So if that's the case for you, you can take your sketch and go outside and stick your sketch up so that it looks like this on the outside of the window. And then when you come back in, you can just trace it through. But because I am in my house and I'm on the second floor, I have to be able to letter on the inside of the window without being able to trace through it, because obviously I can't go on the outside of the window and stick up my sketch. So that's where my secret hack comes in, and that's what I'm going to show you next. This is a technique that a lot of people know for chalkboards and think that it won't apply to windows, but I have discovered that it actually does apply to windows, and so this is my secret hack. What you're gonna do is take a piece of chalk and your sharpener if you want to. I usually just sharpen the chalk a little bit so it's a little less blunt on the end. And then you're gonna just go over all of the lines on your sketch. So you're just tracing over all the lines you drew with your black marker. So really just trying to follow the lines, the original lines that you drew. Once you have the chalk on every single line that you've drawn, you're ready to put it on the window. Now you're going to take your pencil and you're going to trace over all of the parts that you had in your black marker and with the chalk on the other side, and you're going to see that it'll transfer onto the glass. So if I do this letter E, for example, you're just going to add lots of pressure. And then when you're finished the whole thing, you'll be able to peel it off and you'll be able to see the chalk transferred onto the other side. So your whole sketch will end up on your window like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole rest of it. Okay, this is the satisfying part. So once you've traced over all of it with your pencil, you can pull down your sketch carefully. And now you're ready to go over it with your paint markers. I told you it's not rocket science. All right, so I am using water-based paint pens, but the ones I showed you earlier were white. I'm gonna use black. And the only reason for this is because I know that from the street, if I close my blinds here, the black really stands out against my white blinds. So for you, I would just recommend draw a little bit of a swatch on your window and then go outside and see what it looks like. You can use white, you can use black, you can use colors, whatever you think is gonna stand out the most, but I'm gonna use black. With paint pens, you wanna make sure that you shake them really, really well before you use them. And you also wanna have some sort of surface that you can constantly press down on so that you're keeping it really saturated. So I'm gonna start with my smaller black one. This is just kind of like a chalkboard surface that I use to make sure my pens are working. And I'm gonna hop right on to lettering it. So what you wanna keep in mind is if you are right-handed like me, you wanna start from the left and work that way so that you're not smudging it as you move. If you're left-handed, you can do the opposite, obviously. One thing you'll notice with this kind of work, now that you have chalk on your window, is that sometimes it'll cause your paint pen to clog up a little. So like I said, just make sure you have a surface like this one that you can be constantly pushing down on it, and it'll help a lot. So I'm actually switching to the bigger pen now because I want to fill in the thicker parts. And one thing that's really important when you're doing this is if you're doing faux calligraphy like I am, you want to fill in the thick parts as you go. You don't want to do the whole word and in an outline and then fill in the thick parts, because once the paint dries, it's really hard to go back and thicken without screwing it up. So thicken as you go. Once you have your letters all done, there's obviously still a little bit of chalk residue. And so if you're using water-based or oil-based Sharpie or whatever other paint that isn't chalk pen, you can take a dry paper towel and just gently wipe over top of it. It won't get rid of your letters, it'll only get rid of the chalk. Make sure it's dry before you do this, obviously. Then when you're all done, the good part, I'm going to close my blinds and take you outside to see what it looks like. So there's what it looks like. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, hit the like button down below. Tag me on Instagram if you try it, and make sure you hit subscribe on this channel because I do 2 new videos every single week. And I'll see you next time.